What are just some ideas, some effective strategies with content for trade shows?
I think what works really well, I mean, LEDs are all the rage and they really do get the message across if you've got effective video on them. I think that's a great,
Mm,
it's a great start in terms of, getting your message out there and making it visible and impactful, right? If you have a great video producer, video content producer that can create something compelling, like a sizzle reel or just something interesting. I've seen Bear had at one of their events a humongous LED with just a big water wall on it. And it was so cool. It said, "Are you flooded with data?" Right? And it just was its message that really got across very well. Presentations work very, very well. You always see people when a presentation is done well with a professional presenter, you get people into the booth, you get them dedicated to your message for 5 to 7 minutes and are able to then service whatever their needs are after the presentation itself. I've seen recently at AACC, Siemens did a sort of roving reporter type of a thing with throughout their booth. They had this enormous LED wall, and then a reporter was talking to different product experts within their booth, and they were through IMAG putting it on the LED wall. Say, hey, we're here at this part of the booth. Come join us. This is what I'm showing off. This is why it's so important. These are the pain points we're solving for. We'd love to
mhm,
talk to you. I thought that
mhm.
worked really well as well.
Nice. With the video wall and any kind of technology, touch screens, stands, things like that. I always ask the question, if we're talking about it internally here and executing things, we always say why. Like,
Yep.
what are you putting on it? Like, yes, the video wall's great. Yes, the touchscreen is great, but what are you doing there? What's going on? Because sometimes people get infatuated. They're like, we got to have these video walls. It's video wall, video wall. And you're like, what are you putting on it? You don't even have content. So you're going to make this whole thing about this video wall, but you don't have content. And I don't even understand how you're engaging somebody. So if you had some awesome campaign, right, and it mirrored up, or you had this idea based on your product or your service, and you pitch that along with the video wall, and I would be like, that sounds incredible. That's engaging. Like, let's do it. But if you don't, can't just have it just to have it. The presentations I love. I'm a huge fan of them. Huge fan
Yeah.
of engaging, good presentations. So I love that you said that, because I think that sometimes slides under the radar when you hear content and you hear strategies. You know what I mean? It
Well,
doesn't
and
get
I think
talked about enough.
for a long time, people had this like, presentation. I gotta listen to a PowerPoint, but they're gonna be done so well. And they're really building
Yes.
up
Oh, yes,
momentum.
they can.
Yeah, they're really
Yep.
building up momentum again within the trade show space. And I think there's a good reason for that because they are tried and
Yeah.
true and they really
Yep.
do get that message across. And now it doesn't have to be a PowerPoint presentation. It can be, you know,
Yep.
a really
Way
powerful
more than that.
video. Yeah, it can be so much more than that. I do have to say though, I'm always a fan of professional presenters over
Mhm.
people from the
Yeah.
actual organization, just because they're
Yeah.
usually more compelling and engaging.
I think if you're going to do presentations and you're going to even demonstrations, like if you have a product, right?
Yes.
Like, make it, I'm not saying make it a spectacle to make it a spectacle, but make it fun, make it engaging, make it something more, whether it's like you have a scheduled one every hour on the hour and you do something along with it and it's live streamed, and it's just different ideas to draw attention and bring to light kind of what's happening. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you have to fulfill driving value, right? I mean, of course, at the end of the day.
I often
Um,
hear though, like, oh, I tried a presentation, it didn't work. And there's a number of pitfalls that you can get into if you're going to create a presentation. I have a tried and true, Matt, like a tried and true 5 Asians that you should do. So if I could share, if you're creating a presentation, you want to look at communication. What is your message? What is your story? How are you communicating it? Elevation, make sure that your presenter is elevated in a way that draws attention. Illumination, light your space in a way that is compelling. Amplification, And I forgot my last station.
Communication is the message, elevation, right, for the speaker,
Yep.
illumination of the
Amplification,
space, amplification.
elevation. I don't remember my last station, but those
Yeah.
four will work. And it really does matter, like how you're telling your story, right?
Yeah.
Making sure you have a good content writer for how that
Yep.
story is coming across.
And I think for, those type things, like I give an example is like I have a friend of mine, multiple friends inside one company, and essentially they have like an HVAC fan system and it has a ton of value proposition to it compared to their competitors. And part of the value proposition is the quick setup. So we were talking about trade show and I'm like, let's build this
Set
bad
it up.
boy.
Yeah, build
Let's
it.
build it. Let's install it into a wall or something. And I'm like, let's make a spectacle. Let's have a stopwatch. Let's time it. Like, come bet that you can't install this thing in X period of time. So like you have to be thinking of like presentation. Can you gamify it? Right. I've always said that.
Yes.
Can you gamify it? Can you get people to come in and interact and do something with it? And it's just stretching the boundaries of always thinking about engaging your customer. It can't be boring. It's got to be fun. It has to be fully engaging. And that's how you will drive people.
I love that. And I think in terms of content, offering them a takeaway at the end is really also very important. I mean, swag is great. And I think that's important. Having a giveaway strategy, having somebody come in and activate that brand ambassador, making sure people are coming in and actually doing the activity itself. But what is the takeaway? Does somebody get a thank you message at the end, or do they get like a video of them actually installing that HVAC
Yep.
system, or a picture of them having, succeeded doing the
Yeah.
challenge? Something that they leave with at the end of the day, they look at their email and they're like, oh my goodness, that brand cared about me and
Yeah.
I got to do this cool thing and I've got a takeaway from it.
I think that's such a good point for us to kind of skip around a little bit, which is like the end of some of this stuff, right? Because we're talking about content strategy for an event. A lot of it we've discussed is like how to plan and strategize to go create content to utilize at the show. But then you need some form of follow up. What are they taking home? What are they leaving with? What does follow up look like afterwards? And it should be done with content, with giveaways. What kind of touch points are there? What are your thoughts on creative ways of after, like once you've utilized content at a show and then now you need to reach back out to people? Like, what does your follow-up look like? Can you use content for that?
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, you've captured data and metrics on site, right? You know who
Yeah.
all of these attendees are and you know where they are in the purchasing funnel. So for, creating that strategy afterwards, your hot leads need to get immediately sent to your sales team for immediate follow-up. All of those leads need to be put into your CRM for a nurturing campaign. And you want to, as soon as somebody comes into your booth, after they leave, you want to be able to send them a thank you message again with some sort of takeaway from it. But I would say, within 2 weeks after the show, you want to make an offer to anyone that visited your booth. This can be a coupon, a white paper, a takeaway from the activity, even something as simple as a chance to learn more or set up a time to chat. But ideally, you want to take the community that you created within that event and keep that message going. And that can be offering them a webinar. Maybe you follow it up with, hey, we talked to you about all the people that you talked to about this product. We're doing a product webinar and offering, a 10% coupon on it afterwards. Like, come join us. We want to talk to you about it, etc. But create that community afterwards. And then again, filter the rest into those nurturing campaigns and then time your communications to their purchasing timeframe.
I've talked a little bit about this, but is the personalization on the back end, like all the things you're saying, like those are just it's a must do. You must be organized in that follow up. Otherwise, you've wasted everything in the front.
Right.
And I've always told people, like, how can you dial in that data and what's happening on the show floor in real time to be able to personalize your follow up with what you're asking people? Like when sales get a list of 40 hot leads, 100 hot leads, or actual really good conversation, do they have the personalization from those discussions? Or are they just calling saying, hey, it's Megan from X, we met you on the floor, I'm following up, want to see? Like, that's boring. It's, can you follow up with
Totally.
personalization from the show?
Which is why it's important to ask those questions on the show floor. You know, have a survey of your attendees. What products were they interested in? Maybe you've done booth tracking and you know that they spent 5 minutes at this particular part of your booth. Or maybe you've just asked them what they're most interested in. There are a lot of different ways to collect that kind of feedback. But if you're savvy, you can easily find that information about your attendees and then be very, very deliberate and strategic with how you're going to follow up with them. To follow that up, also think about like what performs well for them, what performed well
Yeah.
at your event, and then use those specific key messages to then tie that into the content after the event as well.